that showed that there's like 220,000 ballots left to count in Sacramento County. Hi, Scott. Scott was with me. We went on an adventure to go find out what the heck was going on. So we went to the Sacramento County Registrar of Voters to find out exactly what was happening, and I'm kind of blown away. I think I'm still in shock that this process changed so drastically, and this is what we have to work with now. So just to give you an idea, it used to be when you went to the polls on voting day, you cast your ballot and that was automatically counted. So when they did the results that night, they had like a good amount. Yeah, that's true, Scott. I hear you. They had a good idea of how the turnout of the race, because they had a vast majority of the ballots counted there. And they were like automatically tallied. They were scanned in. It was, it was basically all, significantly counted, aside from the absentee ballots that were mailed in previous. This is the former system that I'm talking about. So it used to be, you would go in, you would vote at the polls or whatever, and your ballot would be tallied right there. And so when they gave election results, they were fairly confident in the numbers, unless there was like a huge discrepancy or something weird happened with the mail-ins or some other kind of problem. Now, and by the way, the reasoning behind this is apparently when Deborah Bowen was in office, she decertified the voting machines. So Sac County is one of 5 counties that is piloting this new program. And the new program is they mail out every single ballot, regardless of whether you're a absentee voter or not. And when you return those ballots on election day, like when we went and you saw the picture of me like putting the envelope in the ballot box, those are considered mail-in. So they're processed manually. Everything is processed manually now. The Registrar of Voters office is filled with ballots. I mean, they're everywhere. There's 220,000 as of yesterday afternoon, and they're still getting them in the mail today, and they'll still get them in the mail tomorrow. They don't even know how many total votes they're going to get. Like I said, I'm still in shock. I can't even believe this. They're moving at such a pace. I mean, it gives me anxiety that we really aren't going to know for another month who the actual winners are of these top 2 races, because they're moving at the speed of slow. I mean, the process, like just when the envelopes come in, they scan them through the exact same machine 3 different times. They take the envelopes and they scan them through the exact same machine 3 different times. It just doesn't even make sense to me. I don't understand why it wouldn't be more efficient. And I suggested some efficiency standards that they could put in place, and I think that it was kind of offensive to them. I think all of our questions were slightly offensive to them, because we really wanted to know, like, what the heck is going on? How is it possible that this is how it works now? And that's when she told me that it was Deborah Bowen actually decertified all of the voting machines. So now the voting machines can't be used, but those, when you actually placed your vote, they were tallied automatically. Now they have to be hand processed. And when I say hand processed, they are touched, let me see if I can even remember, 3 times to go that one machine when they first arrive. So there's 3 touches on the envelope. Then the envelope is put into a shaky machine that makes the ballot go to the bottom. Then it's the top of it sliced off. Then it goes to a whole room of people that take them out of the envelope, or they take them out in that room. I can't remember. So that's 2 more touches. And then people have to look at them to make sure that they're not messy or they don't have the wrong ink color or whatever. And then they put them in a bin. And then that bin goes to the people who actually run them through the machine. If there's any kind of problem with the ballot, they go to another place where they have to replicate the ballot and then run it through the machine, because if there's anything wrong with the paper, they can't run it through their machine. And then it goes to a computer where someone has to verify it, and then every signature has to be verified. So someone's looking at a computer screen and they're comparing your signature to the signature on your ballot envelope, and then there's 1%, so 1% in this district is a huge portion that has to be validated by hand. So they can't run those ones through the machine. They have to, well, they run it through the machine through that whole process, and then they have to validate 1% by hand. So that's a whole nother room. And then, like Scott posted just now, when you walk through, there's not supervision, there's not cameras. We asked, and she's like, oh yeah, we're under supervision, but I really didn't see cameras in each station. And some of it, like, you can tell that they tried, to do their due diligence, but it's just it's too massive to have a supervisor in 4 or 5 different rooms watching the whole process. I mean, you can go as a citizen, you can go and watch the accounting process. And we were given a tour of the whole facility, so it's not like you can't be there a certain percentage of time, but it's like 30 days, day through the whole day. And there's so many temporary employees to make this happen. I mean, the amount of wasted dollars on this it's so much that it makes me sick. I can't even fathom. And then on top of that, the candidates have no idea what the actual results will be because there's so many ballots that are outstanding. And from my understanding, I think yesterday only she wouldn't give us real clear numbers, but based on how much our election changed, it only seemed like maybe 10,000 of them were processed yesterday. I could be way off, but from the original numbers that we saw on election night compared to as it stands today, there really hasn't been a significant change. It was really not a large amount. So now we're looking at how long is this going to take? And then they literally have 30 days to certify the results. Oh yeah, no kidding, Johnny. There's so many different ways the process could be frauded and defrauded. And we asked her, well, Scott did, because he's a lot more forward than I am. And she got she felt kind of uncomfortable with those questions and didn't seem like she wanted to answer them. And I think they're probably getting hammered from every direction on that issue, because a lot of the people, not a lot of them, all of them are temporary employees. They're not permanent employees, and they don't have any accountability. And then the managers, they didn't seem to be enough. The county registrar's office only has 30 employees on a regular basis. So they had to bring in hundreds of people to process these ballots. Who's supervising them? And then they don't even have cameras on them. There's so many problems. My head feels like it's going to explode. I do feel like they're trying. They want to do their due diligence. They want to be considered like they're honest, good people, just like all of us would feel, right? But the fact that they pushed this to all paper ballot and they weren't ready, just the workflow of the paper, the volume of paper from room to room is, for me, incredibly astonishing, because workflow analysis is something that I actually did in my job, and I can't believe that they don't have this set up more efficiently. You're going from room to room in such a haphazard manner. It's not like she started us in one room and she's like, and this is where the ballots are, brought in, and then this is the next step in the process, and the next step in the process, and so on and so forth. It was like, oh, now we're in this random room, and here's the middle of the process, and then here's the end of the process, and then here's the beginning of the process, and none of it's in order. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it made sense to Scott. And yeah, she wouldn't answer any of the questions on the surveillance of the voting box locations. Ballot stuffing, voter fraud isn't difficult in this system, not enough. Yeah, there's no transparency. There's no, I don't want to encourage anyone, obviously. I think that, I would rather people not be inclined to cause voter fraud, but honestly, the system is so rudimentary. I'm still in shock. I mean, how can it be this basic? And then on top of it, candidates are out there being like, oh, hey, we won. And it's not even a third of the ballots that have been counted. So I'm really not sure what to expect. I'm going to have to moderate my, the energy I put into worrying about this, because 30 days is an extremely long time to wait to find out the results of an election. I don't know, Johnny. Why don't they do a lot of things? My gut reaction to why don't they do something more efficient is because then they couldn't hire as many employees. That's the way the state always operated, and it seems like this is the way this is operating. And I told her I'm happy to design a more efficient system for her. And she was nice about it, but I'm like, this is completely irrational. Like, if you did a workflow analysis on this, anybody who has any amount of common sense would be horrified. And then like there were the big bins, like huge big bins that they use for like laundry in the prisons. And those bins were full of ballot boxes, like the pink boxes that they actually collected from the sites. And they were in this warehouse, and like, I mean, there was a big loading dock right next to it. And you could just wheel out a cart. I mean, I'm sure somebody would probably catch anybody doing that, but it's too easy to move in and out of that space. It wouldn't even take like a professional effort to corrupt it. And I'm sure that they kind of have that feeling too. I know that they were getting flack because they felt very insecure and kind of defensive, which I can totally understand. I mean, they're trying to do their job. They're trying to do a good job, but it's not set up well. And the fact that they're having to do 100% hand count is just disgusting and horrifying in this day and age. Maybe it gives people a comfort, but I think it just opens up the process to too much fraudulent possibilities. Yeah, Ken, that would be great if legislation would be introduced to streamline the process. They got way more ballots than they expected because they thought that they would get a low turnout, and they've gotten a huge amount. We saw the charts on the wall. We couldn't take pictures inside, unfortunately, but we saw the charts on the wall, and it was like da 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 da, and then this year was like whoop, it was like way high. They got a huge amount of ballots returned. I don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to legislate in confidence. You have to have a desire to do a great job and to be forward thinking and be able to set up a workflow that makes sense and move paper in a practical manner. When you're working with that much paper, you're talking about, at this point, they know of 334,000 ballots so far. 344,000 ballots so far. That's just what they have as of yesterday. That's not including what they get in the mail today and tomorrow. What do you mean return ballots? So I don't know what that question's referencing. What do you mean return ballots? All the ballots were mailed in or brought to a polling station. There were no polls. Apparently, Deborah Bowen decertified all of the polling equipment in California. So these were 5 pilot counties. Sacramento County is one of them, where they have to do 100% paper ballots and hand counts. Or they have to feed the paper through the machines by hand. It used to be you would go to your polling place and you would vote, and that would be scanned in and counted at the polling place. So by the time you got to the election night results, it was like a pretty good idea. And then throughout the night, you would get more results. And by the morning, you had a really great idea, unless it was a super close race. It's not like that anymore. The only ones they've counted up to date are the ones that were mailed in previous to the election night. None of the election night ones, I haven't had anybody report that their ballot was accepted. And the way that you know it's accepted is when it starts going through their process. When the final count is confirmed, why not request a recount? Where's the accountability? So from my perspective, it seemed like they're processing outside of some sort of voter fraud. I don't know how you would prove that. Like if someone stole a box of ballots or something, that would be hard to prove. You'd have to have video evidence. But from what I could tell, their processing was sound, and they had double, triple checks in some places, which is good. The problem for me is that they're having to do that by hand. We're not going to have the results for a very long time. Bad, no signatures. What does that mean? Scott, I don't know what you're saying. Tanya, why does the election poll say they are... Because when they received the when they received the ballots back